We are done with the first day of competition here in Carson, California. PC and I left the venue maybe 30, 45 minutes ago. Been
Something like that.
doing some review, some prep work, and we're going to look at what happened today in Carson. We're going to talk about what has been happening in Oceania. Days get confusing when you start jumping time zones like that. And we'll preview tomorrow's events as well. Tomorrow's a big day for the teams. It's last day.
Hey, Sarah.
And for the individuals, it's a huge day. And I'm going to actually been digging into some stuff that I think is going to help contextualize just how critical day 2 of these semifinals is for the individuals. So, but I think we'll start with the team landscape for today. Obviously, the teams are not getting as much coverage as the individuals this year with the podcast that CrossFit is doing. There's something. I was grateful to be a part of it this morning for the first 2 heats of the first event, and then obviously the running event is pretty tough. The lifting event, unfortunately, they were facing the other direction, so I know it was really hard for Adrian and whoever he had on during that time. But the competition was pretty good, and we had kind of previewed this division by saying that there might be a couple teams lingering down that could potentially bump up to the top heat, but that it would probably be few and far between because the top 8 or 10 teams coming in were likely probably going to be difficult to unseat. And as far as the predictions go for the teams, I've been trying to spread the love a little bit. So I put some picks out this morning. I made an intentional decision to not pick Invictus for every event, basically. I wanted to try to pick, and even tomorrow I'm going to pick 4 teams for those events that I did not pick today. So across the 5 events, I'll pick 2 teams per event, and there'll be 10 unique teams. And actually on the team side of things, things went really well for me today. Invictus took first on the first event, and Overtake Team Density took 5th, which I believe was their best finish today. And we'll look at the full leaderboard here in a second. I did pick one Invictus team for each of the workouts. On the second workout, I picked Unconquerable. They took first. And then the Wolfpack I picked, and they took second. So that was can't do any better than that. That's a little bit of probably the easiest event to pick though, because the weightlifters are very well known. Hannah Black, Rolled on Gold Bomb, Philip Muscarella. We knew that they were going to have a good lift for their team there. And then the Carretero team has Paulina Harrow, who hit 240 pounds. Nico Bacha, very strong guy. Lucas and Anita Martinez actually over 200 pounds as well, on the slighter side. And then for the final event today, they had the run with Warm. I went for yet another unconquerable team, or this team, this time unconquerable, and Unbroken, excuse me. They took second, and Verdant CrossFit took 7th, which I think might have been their best finish. They're lurking around the overall spot, and I think that was their best finish today, maybe very close with the lifting. So pretty good on the picks on the team side. Basically, when we look back at the leaderboard, and see that things are playing out more or less as expected, with probably 2 surprises. So no surprise at all. I would say that the Invictus teams are 1 and 2. That Einhorn team is good. I didn't pick them for any of the workouts today, but they look at their finishes. I mean, 2, 5, and 6. They're all the comments about the individuals, we'll bookmark those and get to them when we shift over to the individual side where we spend most of the time. That Einhorn team is a veteran team. We got an interview with them that we'll throw up. They have two returners from their. Maybe I should go to a hotspot and log back in. Patrick, do you see that comment from Burton?
Yeah. You're you're robot-y. You're like a robot. That's right. Go do it.
What do I do? How do I do that? You can kick me out, or I'll just switch to
internet. Switch to internet to the hotspot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Burton. Yeah, thanks. While you're doing that, well, thank you. Yeah, it was cool. It was great to be out there. Yes, I agree, Brian. They need you all day. I haven't listened to the podcast, but Sarah's looks like they were talking about be or not the athletes. That's unfortunate. And good evening, T-Bird. Glad you can join us as always. Yeah, Burton. We'll bring if you go to our Instagram, we kind of talked about that. Her and Kyra
You
Milligan,
got me?
really good. It's what they needed. So, and we'll talk about that. We'll go a little bit more in depth than we did the other day. But like Brian said, we'll start off with the team. Brian, you think you got this
Yeah.
a
I
little
think
bit better?
is it better now? Hopefully it's better now.
Yeah, we'll go.
If it was
We'll
always
go.
fine for me, but yeah. The thing is, I talked about it on the broadcast earlier today, and these Mexican teams are looking to break history. Basically, I thought that the WPAC, the Wolfpack team out of Querétaro, had a great chance to make it. The complex team um, does have Sasha Nieves on it, but the other athletes on their team are a little bit less well known, and I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, expect them to be doing this well. Esteban Ospina out of Colombia is one of the best guys, if not the best guy in Colombia. He's on that team, but Ricardo Garcia and Carla Cornejo are relatively unknown to me. Um, so I didn't really know if this team would be well-rounded enough to make that kind of run. There's only 7 spots available, and they actually, I use the word run. Both of these teams ran really well for being, teams that I
Yeah.
expected to do well in the lifting. They took 2nd and 5th, but they backed it up with a 4th and a 5th, and they've had 5 out of 6 top 5 finishes between the two of them. But it really increasing the density of teams who have a great opportunity to make it to the games, and obviously putting Mexico on the map here with 2 teams inside the top 5 after one day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those teams kind of remind me, and again, just like coming out of nowhere, just kind of the makeup of it. They kind of almost remind me of the AB CrossFit team that we saw in the East last year in terms of their makeup. They have some veterans in there, some games experience. They're from Latin American countries. Most of them were, and it kind of it almost has that kind of flavor to it. And it's cool. It's really cool, especially like seeing someone like Paulina Harrow, who I've been following since she was a teenager. Like, I used to track the teen division when I was working at Morning Chalk-Up. So it's kind of cool. Like, she kind of fell off the map last year. I know she dipped her toe into like some Olympic lifting, trying to make the national team for Mexico. So it was just kind of cool to see her back. And then obviously you mentioned Sasha, who made it as an individual athlete. I think that Mayhem team that they had I believe they finished 5th or something like that. The year that they had Luke Parker, Alexis Johnson, and of course, who am I drawing a blank?
Was Angela on that team?
Yeah, Angelo. Yeah, Angelo. Duh. Sorry. Yeah. So, but
I think for me on the team side today, CrossFit Kama was probably the biggest surprise. And
I agree.
I know 3 of the athletes on this team quite well. Travis Williams is on that team. I don't think that the
Yes.
MCs on the floor knew he was lifting
Yes.
pounds.
Yeah.
Complex. And they called that a teammate was lifting it, but he's competed at the CrossFit Games in 2015. He was here competing after coming out of
Yeah.
the South Regional, maybe a couple other years as well. But Adrian Conway specifically referenced that year on the podcast today.
Mhm.
And I saw CrossFit posted Marco Coppola out of Density's team, who's 1 spot behind them on the leaderboard, 325. I'm not sure if they saw
Mhm.
Travis. It was that layout for that event, like a lot of the lifting events, especially when there's teams, it's just easy
Very
to miss
hectic.
things that are going on, especially if you're
Yeah.
close to the floor. So we went up
Yeah.
high for the most part, which gave us a better vantage point. But it's a fascinating
Mhm.
team. There's besides Travis, the other guy on the team is Brady Borchardt, and he's 6'6", which is super super rare.
Yes.
Basically, I don't think you have a chance to make the CrossFit Games as an individual being 6'6". But he competed as elite or top division in the fittest experience, and he had a couple good workouts there. He was amazing on the run today, of course. But
Mhm.
and then they have Cody Vitetto, who podiumed at the fittest experience, one of their girls, and Alyssa Taylor, who joined them. That I don't know much about Alyssa, but she did very well today. She's 27. They're all around 30 years old. I think their average age is 30 years old, and it's a pretty solid team. Um,
Mhm.
they only get 7 teams here. HGR CBD, the HGR CBD, our
Yeah.
sponsors. Yeah, only 7 teams. It's really really tight. And so we see on the cut line there that team, they won that fittest experience competition as a team. They've entered in one Brooke Haas to their team that wasn't there in Texas, and they're pretty good. I think they took a big hit on the running workout, which is expected, but I think that they'll
Yeah.
be pretty good tomorrow. And for these teams that are right behind them, I mean, Rhino Service Dogs, you know them super well, Patrick, and they had a solid day.
Yeah.
They were really pleased with
I
their running performance, and I think based on talking to them that they're excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the workouts work come, they work in their favor tomorrow. You know, the thing about them is like it's a team of four. I think in each one of those events, I do like the team test. By that, we never really got to discuss the team test for semifinals, but I like these tests because it's well balanced. It has a chance to show everyone working as a team, and then showing some individual teams and persons like that. So tomorrow's all about the pairs, how you work as a pair, as a team of pair, especially that last event. I mean, then you work as a pair, and then you come together on the actual worm and work as a team. I like that, but I think they're going to do good tomorrow. They took the 10th. They missed a couple lifts there at the end, and I think probably would have move them up a couple spots. But I think a lot of people, if you're watching it, I know it's kind of hard to watch, but a lot of teams were missing a lot of their lifts at the end, which was cool. It was cool to see, like, at least them going for it. And then on the run, they Carson isn't the best runner. You'll see that interview, and she admits it. But for them finishing 10th in that workout, that's a win for them. That's a big win for them because especially some of those earlier heats, have runners on them. But I think they're in a great position. I actually still think they're going to probably jump into the top 5 at some point. So tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're only 4 points out. There's a little bit of a drop there from 5 down
Yeah.
to 6, but between
Yep.
6 and 11, which are all very good and established teams, the points margin is 25 points. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity there. Or actually, 33 points. Anyway, there's two comments here that I think are worth addressing, and they go
Yeah, I
hand
like
in
it.
hand with each other. Daniel says, I wonder if people would like teams more if there were fewer teams, like 5 to 10 total at the game, so they could focus on each team's story more. This reminds me of the first year of the Rogue Invitational, where they had a small,
Mm-hmm.
select group of teams that were competing there, and most of the individuals on the team were relatively well known, or they were so few of them that it was easier for um, commentators to learn more about the athletes, or at least learn their names and be able to identify them. That was something that I was
Mm-hmm.
really trying hard to do in the heats that I was calling today. And if I had the opportunity to call the teams throughout an entire competition, I'll learn those athletes very, very quickly, learn things about them as we go, have conversations with them. And obviously, I would just do more prep work knowing that I was going to do that job. But I didn't get to call the last heat, and I know almost all the athletes, not just the teams, but the athletes in that heat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Lynn is saying. I like the teams, but you need to know a lot about all the individuals, which I think CrossFit should do a better job of publicizing. But um, that's true for sure. And in tandem with that is you could just bring in people that actually know the athletes, that actually know
Mm-hmm.
the teams, that actually know their coaches, that actually know the storylines, and that follow this sport professionally. If you guys watch Back Crash Crescendo, you're going to get most of the team mates' names told to you by me because I know those athletes. I prepped, and then I didn't know them. I went and talked to them when they were checking in. Patrick and I spent the whole day yesterday talking to the teams as they were checking in, making sure that we had at least some information because it does keep things moving. And Jeff says those
Yeah.
teams from Rogue were basically super teams. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
they
have
were.
teams like we talked to Einhorn today. They're a traditional affiliate team. They told us
Mm-hmm.
they work out in the morning together. They've been at that gym for a long time. They have lives outside of the gym. But they were at the games last year. Two of them were. One of them was at the games 3 years ago, and then one of them is a new mom. And like just those little details add some meaning to who you're watching. Lynn says super teams have higher fan support. For example, Invictus, because you know the individuals. I didn't know Hannah Black was on a team, and she's a badass. Yeah, and Hannah Black, that's a great shout. Like she's established herself in the individual realm last year with that huge snatch. People have been pondering if she could potentially have a breakthrough to the games this year. She ends up going on a team with which Patrick knows has been a great thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that well publicized. It's not that well known. And you think about the fact that the team quarterfinals ended a long time ago relative to the semifinals and relative to individual quarterfinals. You could be publishing Instagram posts, articles, something like this that have the teams with the teammates names there in the run up to that could maybe make them more interesting. And I don't agree with this comment at all, that
Yeah.
no one cares about the teams. Those teams that are competing there, their communities and their coaches, the amount of passion, fitness, and dedication that they have to doing this is extreme. And these athletes are really, really talented and really, really good. Those workouts are not easy, and these athletes take them on very aggressively. And there's a reason why, even though we know that a lot of you want to hear about the individuals, that we're going to spend some time talking about those teams because we respect the fact that just to get to this stage takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and you're definitely going to see that tomorrow. I mean, it's Saturday. The Sea of Green, which if you people are familiar with, that's the Invictus teams, their fans, the community. They're all going to drive up tomorrow. You know, most of them have jobs. That whole community that's very supportive, and they're gonna be driving up tomorrow. So you're going to see the Sea of Green tomorrow, especially when you have 4 teams potentially. You know, really actually 3 teams right now. There. Thank you, Daniel. But yeah, the Sea of Green, they're going to be in
Well,
force tomorrow because huh?
that is such a cool comment. And in
Yeah.
2018, when I went to the regional in Del Mar that year, um, who was it? Well, it was Becca Voigt's gym, and then there were a couple athletes from Invictus and a team, and they were competing. And the stands there, like an entire section of the stands was just packed with the local gyms. And
Yeah.
when their athletes were competing, when their athletes were announced to go to the CrossFit Games, it was the feel that we had in Europe last year, where the
Hmm.
gyms, the community around that affiliate, that athlete or that team, was
Yeah.
almost like how the countries were supporting the Italian athletes, the UK athletes, the Serbian athletes, etc. Um, cheers were loud
Yeah.
for the teams and the
I can
Aussie on
imagine,
the field too.
especially those teams. I mean, they have. I mean, that's the equivalent of having like Rich Froning and China Cho, or just some legends on a team. But obviously, we know how crazy for CrossFit that the Australian fans are. But yeah, I liked the test today. I thought that running test was cool. I thought that was cool that they kind of ran the similar route. Um, but it was really cool watching it was really weird watching the first 2 heats versus the last heated team. The first 3 heats, you could tell runners, they weren't sticking together. Their best athlete was, their best runners were running. They didn't have a rope or anything they had to hold on to, and so they're running off. They come in the stadium and wait for their next teammates. But when you got to the third heat, they were pack running. You could tell, like, especially the Invictus
And they
teams.
were helping each other.
Yes, they were helping. It was almost like they're blocking out other teams and going up the stairs. I have some great footage of that. But they're running like they're running with ropes, but they practiced that way. They trained that way. It was so cool. Yeah, I mean that's some. Yeah.
Texas has a huge contingency of teams here. In addition to KMA, Lone Star, and Einhorn, you have one
Mhm.
extra letter in there, but that's all right. Is one extra H. You have the team density team. There's some dude's Army team. Yeah, Texas is very, very well represented, as they usually are. And yeah, we talked to that Wolfpack team again after the run. I mean, Paulina Harrow is not the greatest runner, but Lucas
Mhm.
Ozaki from the first round had his hand in her small
Hand
of
on
her
her back.
back and was helping her along because he's
Yeah.
giving her a little extra push. It makes it a little bit harder on him on the run, but it keeps
Mhm.
them more on a level playing field. So when they get back to the worm, that they don't have to wait for her. They can pick it up, do that, and go again. And that's the more experienced teams. And the cool thing about the programming this year is there is an opportunity for some teammates to show their skills. The first workout, for example, if you're great at rope climbs,
Mhm.
handstand push-ups, or biking, you had a chance to, you know, benefit your team in a big way. But there are also a lot of parts of the competition where you need to move in unison and you have the opportunity to help each other out physically, mentally, or both.
And we're going to see that tomorrow. Those 2 workouts. I think it's a really good way to end it for the teams. Again, like I said, it's a well-rounded test for the teams. Like, even though it's 5, I wish it was 6 tests, but obviously it is what it is. But no. Yeah, Sarah, the
There are
underdog. Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
Brian.
yeah, underdog teams are in the mix for sure. And actually, heading
Hmm.
into tomorrow, they have 2 workouts left. The first workout is a rowing and overhead squat workout, and this is one of those workouts where you need to contribute based on watching in Europe last year. You need to contribute on both the row and the overhead squats. All the athletes do, but you can definitely favor the one of those 2 movements that you're good at. And so I think the CrossFit Kama team is actually going to be a good team in this regard because
Hmm.
Vitetto and Travis Williams will probably smash the overhead squats, whereas Alyssa and Brady Borchardt, the 6'6" guy, are probably going to be able to make some ground up on the row. So I think Kama is actually going to is going to move themselves a little bit up. They're already in 6, but maybe separate from some of these teams. And we talked to the Rhino Service Dogs after the day today, and they said that is going to be a good workout for them. So maybe an opportunity for them to jump that team density if they don't have a good workout and get into a game spot. PC's been absolutely crushing it, getting some interviews and posting some videos on B.Friendly Fitness. Yesterday, he talked to some athletes, and we clipped them together on YouTube just regarding the berm run that was announced. That was then unannounced, kind of. But he also has been putting up some individual interviews with Lawrence Stallwood and Brent Vikowski yesterday, and we'll have some interviews like that from some teams going up as well. If you're just joining us, 7. 7 is the cutoff for teams, and it's going to be a really it's about 35.6 down to 11. And Motocross in 12 came from first heat all the way up to 12th. They're probably the last team on this list that I think has a chance to get in tomorrow. They're a decent team. Kevin Schutz is on that team. He's pretty good, and they looked good in the first heat today.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have the same caliber as that top heat.
No, I agree. I mean, there's obviously a huge drop off, but yeah, I think there's with only 2 workouts. I think basically, I think it stops pretty much right there at Coda at 12 for so you have 5, 6, 7 teams fighting for those last final spots. So, but like I said, Overtake, Rhino, they're 4 points separating them, and then there's a little bit of drop off, about 12 points from to the other Rhino CrossFit game dogs team. I wouldn't, like I said, I think the other underdogs team will do well tomorrow as well. That team, those workouts play in their favor as well. Like I said, 10th and 11th. It's kind of rough. They weren't the best running team. They missed a couple lifts just like everyone else, but it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah,
like I said,
they need to have like a 5th and a 6th place finish tomorrow to be in the mix.
Yeah, I will say I was shocked. Like the Invictus team, how the main Invictus team with Chandler, Joshua Alchama, Lauren Fisher, and Jesse Smith, how well they navigated that last workout. It was just really cool to watch them. And it was cool because, obviously Invictus Conquerable, they kind of get a little bit more love out of them. But then, the other Invictus team, they're kind of broken. They finished second. And that's a team that has Lauren Stallwood. They have Jen Ryan. I mean, it's a mixed match. They actually probably have talking to Bella even told us, I believe, she thinks out of all the Invictus teams, this probably has the best chemistry in terms of, just there's no drama at all. Not saying that everyone has some type of drama, whether, some type of drama, but it's either good or bad drama. It doesn't really, but they have none. They go out to team dinner. I talked to Jen Ryan. I don't know if you remember it last year. Jen Ryan, I think she won that the Chipotle. You get Chipotle for a whole year. She won one of the workouts.
That's a good thing to win.
Yeah, I forgot which workout it was. It's one of the open workouts, and they did for all the age groups, and she won that age group and won Chipotle. So they sent her a card, and basically she gets 52 Chipotles a year. She doesn't eat Chipotle, but what she does once a week, she'll get the team together, especially the guys, and she'll take them out to get Chipotle. And she told me yesterday
She doesn't eat Chipotle. That's why she's 44
doesn't.
years old and she's still competing out here with these young athletes.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous.
Exactly. So yeah, so she's like, yeah, I still have 25 meals left. And then the guy's like, yeah, we're getting Chipotle right after this. So, that's pretty cool. But I love the chemistry on that. I mean, again, I've known Lauren for a while. I really do, yeah, I really do hope. I think they'll make a run tomorrow as well. Those workouts look good for them. So it should be a very interesting race tomorrow on the team field. And again, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this is Carl, but yeah, Alchama's team is going to run away with that team. It'll be interesting to see how
at the top, we've been, the focus tomorrow is probably going to be on the cut line, but at the top of the leaderboard, Invictus only has a 4-point lead over the Unconquerable team, also from Invictus. And what I'm really looking and thinking about with these teams is how well they can do at the games. These teams have top 10 potential for sure. The Invictus team is probably a team that's thinking podium or bust, and they may even be thinking that we need to defend the championship we won last year. We haven't seen the Peak 360 team go yet. We know that they're going to be very good. The Invictus team has had some better performances relative to Europe last year, but so is some of the teams in Australia, and that may just be a product of learning from each other, from the week 1 teams, and so it's not that obvious. I think that the top 2 teams from Australia and this Invictus team will have good shots for top 5 or better at the games, along with a couple teams from Europe and a couple teams from the East that we'll see next week.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Again, it was a full day 3 workout team, and then we obviously talked about individual, but let's kind of dive into it. One workout today for individual, and that was the run, just like everyone else. And with the men, I mean, like we discussed before, James Sprague, him and that was a really good battle between him and Brent. Bravo for Brent for giving a shot. He came in, did 5 or 6 unbroken right there. Kind of put the pressure on James, but James had already had 5 reps in whenever Brent started. So, that was pretty cool. And then watching Chris and Patrick, in that previous heat. So that was really fun to watching those. So there's like 2
There
different
were a
battles.
bunch of there were just a there were actually like 3 battles because
Yeah.
Colton and Sam Quant ended up being a hell of a showdown as
And
well.
Justin.
Quant was leading the
Yeah.
entire way. Medeiros
Yeah.
was in that mix too, and then Colton comes into the
He fell
stadium.
off there at the
I
end.
guess
Yeah.
both Colton and Medeiros went unbroken on the last set of clean and jerks
Mm-hmm.
to in Colton's case to pass Quant and Medeiros. I'm not sure if he passed anyone by doing that, but to hang tight, it was pretty tight between a few of the guys right there.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool. And Maximilian, I mean, I was really impressed by him. I'm not surprised because it's a running workout and him having that military background, he's a kind of a bigger athlete. He's very similar. He kind of reminds me of a cross between Fikowski and Vellner. Kind of lean athlete, but he's thick too. And then Cole, there's Cole, and that's the thing. If Cole can finish in that 9th, 10th spot through the 5 remaining workouts, he's going to the games again. And, of course, this is the type of workout you
I
would
think of Cole Sager. I think of Cole Sager's semifinals this year similar to BKG. The athlete that he's now trying to match for 11 consecutive qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
BKG had finishes between 6th and 16th on all 6 workouts last week, and that I think netted him. It was either 7th or 8th place, and 7th or 8th place would get the job done here in the West for Cole. He's off to a great start. There's a lot of talented athletes here. I mean, Chris Ibarra won the Desert City Classic last year. He's a few people who know him were telling me that he's going to have a good weekend here. I don't think that there's a lot of space for rookies in this field just because the veterans are so good and well established. But Chris Ibarra, has kind of put his name on the map similarly to what Luka Vuniak did early on. Let's see how he backs it up tomorrow. If he has another good workout tomorrow, then we'll increase the conversation around Chris. Max Krieg, relatively unknown for most people who are casual fans of CrossFit, but he was in the top 20 out of 60 in the West last year. As well, he'll need to have very steady performance. Though the guys behind him are definitely going to be coming. Jacob Schmidt, he is from the Omnia team. He was if on the broadcast, if you could see it, he had the flowing hair. He had one of the lanes that was closest to the exit, so he was in the lead early on, or it appeared that way. But for me, the probably the best performance relative to my expectations for them on this workout was Cole Griesaber. And I talked to Cole yesterday, and he basically told me that this weekend's only going to get better as the events wear on. And so to have, one of the events that maybe you think is going to be a loss for you relative to some of the wins in the second half of the weekend, and it's an 11th, that's pretty good. Like, we saw guys that were 20th, 25th, 30th, 35th in Europe, and then they made big mounts back up the leaderboard. So if this is actually the case, and 11th ends up being Griesaber's worst finish, then he's going to replicate what he did last year when he took 4th against a lot of these same athletes, beating Medeiros and being in the mix with the Quants, Fellners, and Fikowskis. So Griesaber at the semifinal level. Let's see if he can back it up, but he's definitely off to a good start.
I want to kind of go back, like if you're a rookie and you break into this field and make the games, that's saying a lot. That's saying, I mean, I probably hold a little bit more weight with a rookie qualifying out of the West than I would out of the East on the men's side, because it's very impressive. I mean, you have, just a litany of podium contenders and podium finishers there, and it's a good mix. And I was really impressed by Cole in that. I'm kind of upset that he didn't wear the highlighter outfit that he was walking around with yesterday.
It was hot out there, dude. I mean, I don't think I would have had a shirt on either.
Yeah, but yesterday, we went to check in and got his Northern Spirit gear. He had like this highlighter green pants and shorts, and most people are mixed matching them. He went highlight green on both top and bottoms, and walking around that way, it looked like a giant highlighter. But
as far, yeah,
I want to go back and
As far as
let's
the
talk
picks
about.
that I made for this,
Oh yeah,
well,
let's
as far
go to
as the
your picks
picks that I
then.
made for this workout, it was a up and down affair because I picked Sprague and Fikowski, and they finished first and second. But I also picked
Hmm.
Bill Leahy, who
Bill.
finished 29th, and my sleeper pick was Raphael Sanson, who basically got heat stroke during the workout and finished 36th.
Hmm.
So I had like as good as you could do with two picks, and really bad on the other two. And Bill Leahy obviously is getting a ton of love and attention, and he's shown potential over the last couple of years. He did great in Texas at the fittest experience. But now he's got, I mean, last year I thought he would get off to a great start on the long event. He didn't, and then he withdrew from the competition. This year, I thought he would get off to a great start on this event, and he didn't at all, and he's sitting in 29th. So I did a little research from last week. Last week in Europe, three names finished outside of the top 30. Uh, why did you think Bill Leahy could win, Brian? Oh, he's pretty good runner, and he's pretty
Yeah.
good cycling moderate weight on the barbell. I mean, but last week, Victor Hoffer took 30th place on event one. Callum Clements took 32nd. Jona Koski took 34th. Over the course of the weekend, Victor climbed all the way back up to sixth. Clements climbed all the way back up to ninth, and Koski climbed up to 13th. So there is plenty of opportunity for these guys in this region of the leaderboard to do that. But Victor averaged a ninth place finish the rest of the way. Clements averaged a
Hmm.
10th place finish, and Koski averaged a 13th. So if you are a
Well.
fan of these guys that are in like 26th or lower, and you think that they have a chance or want to see them have a chance to make the games, they need to average about 10th or better on the rest of the workouts to even have a prayer. And don't forget that there's less spots here than there were in Europe.
Hmm. Now, what was the worst finish from those three in those workouts?
So the rest of the way, Hoffer's range was first to 16th. Colin
Okay,
Clement's
so
range was third to 19th, and Koski's range was fourth to 26th. And basically, that 26th is what took him out. So if you're Bill
yeah,
Leahy and you have another finish outside of the top 20, it's probably curtains for you.
yeah. So I'm saying that any of these athletes, whether you be Bill, Daniel, even Sam Dancer, we'll talk about here in a moment. Um, they basically can't. They can probably afford one workout 15th or worse, or between 15 and 19, and then after that, you're looking at a lot of 10th places.
Jeff, I hope that he doesn't withdraw. I mean, one of
Yeah,
the things that I want
it
to see
wouldn't be a
from a
good
young
look.
athlete. No, and one of the things I want to see from a young athlete is the resiliency. We always talk about this in CrossFit. It's really, really, really rare that you have a CrossFit competition, whether it's one day or the CrossFit Games, where everything goes your way. You're always going to have something, whether it's poor execution, a workout that's not favorable, a bad judging call, you know, struggling with heat. Like something is not going to go right. You don't fuel properly. You have nerves and you puke before an event. Um, how you respond to that is what makes people great in this sport. And Bill Leahy has shown that when things go well, he's really good. And when things go bad, we don't know yet.
Hmm. So we talked about in our quick recap about Sam Dancer. You asked me. Now I'm asking you. What do you think? Are you have you changed your tone a little bit with Sam Dancer now that you kind of see him in that workout? I mean, have you increased his odds a little bit, or are you seeing what I saw?
Well, I'm just going and referencing the article that I wrote prior to semifinals. I had him ranked 13th coming into this
Hmm.
semifinal. Nine people make it here. And ahead of him, I had like Zach Bunton, who is down there even doing worse than him. John Wood, I had below him, and Trayvon Benton. They're doing worse than him. Daniel Coots is doing worse than him. And then you have Tudor Magda. So all the guys that I had around him are actually doing worse. But the 10 guys that would therefore be in the top 10 outside of Bill Leahy did very well. And if you're Sam Dancer. And even though I've been told that he's lost over 20 pounds coming into this competition. He looks amazing. He was running very well through the first three, maybe 3.5 rounds today,
Yeah.
and he had a very solid and respectable finish. But if you have to, even with as good as that was, Vellner took fourth, Medeiros in the top 10, Quantz in the top 10, Fikowski second, Grieshaber 11, Sprague 1, Mertens 5, Sager 9. That's not a good sign. It's a running
Yeah.
workout, and obviously good CrossFitters have to be good at running, but there's so many of those spots that I just feel like they're claimed, unless
Yeah.
something weird happens. And then you got Brandon Luckett sitting right there, who is definitely a force. Scott Tetlow, he always does good at semifinals. hasn't pushed to the games yet, but he's always within a few spots of it.
Yeah.
And we talked about Krieg. We didn't, we talked about Ibarra, and there's some other guys up here. Mike Evans is a guy who's seemingly getting better every year. He doesn't do a lot of off-season competitions that I know of. Nick Roberts was a total surprise to me. I would put this on par with Mark Carmona from last week. So let's see if Nick has the capacity to back this up, or if he's going to trickle down the leaderboard. But there's always guys that come in and unseat someone. Callum Clements last week. But the lineup that you have to go through to do it here is pretty stout.
Yeah. Colton Mertens, how impressed were you by his performance in this workout?
Well, if you watched him on Peter's show earlier in the week, he basically said, "Hey, this is these workouts on paper, people are saying they don't look good for me. I feel amazing, and I'm going to smash these workouts." And Colton talks a big game, but he backs it up, and he does not. I talked to his coach, Joey Tortora, that he's working with at Proven now. And it's basically a coach's dream. He does not shy away from doing the things that he has to do. He has one of the best mindsets that I've ever heard of and ever seen in application in his life and in competition. And I would never have pegged him to have a 5th place finish on this workout, despite the fact that he's really good on the barbell, just because I thought the running would probably push him down to around 10th at best. But this is similar to Colin Bossard. Colin Bossard is he's a smaller dude. And he was losing on the run to Yellow Host every round. But he would come in and he had faster cycle rate on the barbell. And in the last round, he didn't go 10 and 10 unbroken, but he was able to make up that space and pass a couple guys in the end. And that's exactly what Colton did. So whether it's the training that he does coming into this or the veteran style execution in a workout like that, it was inverse performances for him and Tetlow. Tetlow got out hot, and I was like, "Oh my God, Scott, this is amazing."
Yeah.
He drifted down there into the 17-18 range. Mertens was not in the top 5 after the first 2 rounds, but by the end of the workout, he was still passing people and yields a 5th place finish. He ran his race. He ran it really, really well.
Really well. Because the thing is, like, it's so easy to get caught up because, again, you have a staggered start. So you have people going out hot trying to catch that lead. But the thing is, it's staggered. If you're good enough, you're going to beat that stagger. You're going to outrun that stagger. And that's essentially what Colton did. By the 3rd round, he outran the stagger, and then by then he started picking people off who went out too hot, trying to outrun the stagger, like pass it up, trying to keep up with the pack. And I saw a lot of that. That's why in the first round you have so much bunching, especially when you got to the stairs, and that's where, again, we talked about Vellner was picking people off on the stairs going down. I was impressed with Vellner as well, what he was doing. I mean, you could tell this was a guy, veteran, and I can't wait. I mean, we're going to put out an interview between you and Vellner's dad. He talks about like Vellner and how Vellner came into today, how he was feeling. But Vellner was sick. He was less than 100%. He was less than 100% today. So if that's what we're getting, hopefully he's getting a lot of fluids in him. He's getting some carbs in him. Knowing Vellner, he's doing all the right stuff. And he'll be closer to 100% tomorrow.
Actually, I saw him with his wife and his child right before I left the venue today, and he looked great. Said he feels great. Was happy with how it went today, and looking forward to. He said, "I'm looking forward to doing 50 front squats at 225 at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning."
Yeah, a little bit earlier start. So yeah, there is scheduled. Sorry, there's a earlier start because of there's an MLS game, so we have to be out at the tennis stadium a little bit earlier than normal because they have a soccer game tomorrow. So Sarah, I'm working on it. I did shoot something, nothing crazy, but we'll do a sights and sound tonight. Hopefully, so that way you guys can kind of see some of that action. So individual side on the men, I think that we pretty much covered just about everything. I think Justin's a good position. Again, it's one of those things where we didn't really talk too much about Justin, but this is a good start for him. And the other workouts look really good for him. And of course, you have rowing, handstand walking. Those are 2 movements he's really good at. He should do pretty decent in the lifting, in the snatch ladder. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be close. I think the top 5 spots are going to be close.
Let's talk about the women from today, and then we'll preview tomorrow, because I've done a little bit of analysis and I found some Um, Pretty cool stuff about Saturday. But the women had kind of a similar situation to the men where there were some um, good races across the board. In the first heat, Carissa Stapp, who I know to be a decent runner, got out to an early lead. And this woman who I didn't know very well, Caitlin Bernardin, was right on her heels through the first 3 rounds. And I made a note to myself at that time. I was like, this is a big advantage for them. Similarly to Vellner and Ibarra, like even though you're in that early heat, having someone kind of pushing you can be a big help. But when they came back from the fourth run, Bernardin had left Stapp in the dust, and I kind of thought to myself, "Oh, this isn't great because now how does she know how hard to run?" And I didn't know. I thought her time would be fifth to 10th against the later heat, but at that point it was the first heat, so we didn't know because this workout, the times across regions are completely irrelevant. You can't
Mm-hmm.
really compare them. Ricky Garrard was 19th. His time was 19th compared to the men in Europe. We know that he would be a lot better than that if they were running the same course. So this was like the first benchmark, and I didn't know how good that time was. Uh, I have since talked to Mike Poolboy, who knows her and says she's an amazing running. She also says he also says that she's going to do great on event 2 tomorrow. So Caitlin Bernardin may be somewhat of a surprise of the weekend, but obviously still a lot of questions to ask. And then even with that great run, everyone was thinking Emily Rolfe is going to take this workout down. The other women that I picked to do well here were Ariel Lowen, Bethany Flores, and Kendall Gilmore was a sleeper. Rolfe ends up taking second. Lowen finishes, I think it was seventh or eighth. Gilmore finishes ninth, which
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. And Bethany Flores overpaced it early and finished 14th, but four of the top 14 there, pretty good. And that second heat, there were some women, 5 or 6 of them that were pretty tight behind Rolf for a majority of that. It ends up being Canio who, of those group of women, could hang on to that. It was her, Lindsay Martin, Janice Chevrolet, and I think Stacy Laushin or Liram. Former name was Liram. I think it's Laushin now. That were kind of in that mix from that heat, and they kind of started spreading out a little bit. But in the meantime, Abigail Dammit, she
Wow.
ran a very Colton Merton style race. She was getting better every round,
Mm-hmm.
and she had a really fast last round running and on the barbell. Catapults herself all the way up there to third in the heat, fourth overall. And I think Abigail Dammit's fans have been vocal in terms of our communication, our projections about how good of a weekend they're expecting her to have. I ended up moving her up in my rankings as well. Just kind of when I started to look at some of the things that she has shown to be really good at and the workouts here. But she looked really great and very poised today, um,
Yes, very.
which is encouraging.
Yeah. Um, just looking at Ariel. I mean, again, I was just taken over by Kendall's poise in this. Brittany Chestnut, she was someone that kind of like caught my attention early. I think she went out. I think she went out at a good pace. Then she sped up. It's kind of like I think it was round 3. She might have picked it up too much, and then she kind of throttled down in round 5, allowing Kendall to basically catch her. Alice Kazan, we talked about her. Obviously she's been working on her aerobic capacity, um, and finished 11th. I think obviously that's a good. I think that's a good place for her in this because you do have some you have some, I guess, specialists when it comes to running, and it kind of shown here. Emily White, I don't know what went wrong because normally this is the type of combination she would do well in. She finished 15th, and she just didn't look on or something look off. Maybe I'm just looking too far into it. And then again, what
You already
we
went
talked about
past her,
before,
but I did
Kyra.
want to give a shout out to.
Yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out to Julia Holm. She placed pretty
Mm-hmm.
well on this workout, 12th place. She's
Cool.
already qualified for the CrossFit Games in the Masters division. I think she was either 12th or 13th in their semifinal. Obviously, we have Jamie Hagia here as a Masters athlete. We mentioned Jen Ryan, and another athlete that's showing up here and competing. Despite, I mean, think about all the competition she's done just in the game season already. But quarterfinals was not that long ago. The
Yeah.
online semifinals. Now she's showing up here to compete, and she gets off to a pretty good start on a tough workout. So shout out to Julia Holm. I don't think she's going to be in contention for a game spot, but it's pretty cool that the women around the world are still continuing to show us that they can be relevant as a master in the individual open division. Great
Thanks,
interview with
Daniel.
Kendall yesterday. PC knows her well, and got a chance to talk to her. So impressive at a young age. Does she have a legitimate shot with the remaining events? I don't think so. We knew she's a great
No.
runner. We knew this would be a good workout for her. She's the youngest athlete in the field. She's probably the lightest athlete in the field. And we know that that third day is going to reward power output and strength to a certain extent. This is a learning opportunity for her and a great opportunity for her to be out here in a really cool venue, test herself against some really fit women. And she's going to walk away with some lessons that she'll be able to apply at the pit ranch later in the year, and then kind of parlay her way from there and see what it takes her once she leaves the team division. But yeah, it's the women once again are just showing us on both ends of the spectrum what's possible to be teenagers and masters competing here, and they're both off to a good start.
Yeah. We talked about Kyra Milgren and Olivia Kerstetter. I think these are great finishes. Even Trista Smith, she's not known as a runner as well. I think these are great. I know Kyra is extremely happy, and I don't know if you saw this, but she paced that. She might have paced that too well, because she cycled that barbell. She was probably one of the only few athletes that just stood up. It wasn't on the ground after she finished the barbell workout. She was waving, smiling to people and everything, and typical Kyra Milligan fashion. But but I think that's good because she knows she has 2 more days of competition. And maybe pushing the pace isn't the smartest thing for her at this point, but it was really cool. And I think that finish there kind of separates her from that batch of athletes that we're talking about, whether it be the Kelsey Keels, the Danny Spiegels, Olivia Kerstetter. That finish might end up being the difference maker that might have a punch a ticket to Fort Worth.
Yeah, and we talked about it a lot last week, that once you get into a workout, you're going to identify a couple athletes around you that are kind of they become your opponents in that workout, especially a workout like this that's so long, 5 rounds. I was watching Olivia Kerstetter and Trista Smith head out of the tennis stadium. They were going to their last run, and Adam Neifert had come over, leans over the rail, and he told Trista, he's like, "Now's the time, reel in Olivia." And look at how close their finishes end up being, 3.5 seconds apart. So she wasn't able to do it, but that's the mindset. And experienced coaches like that, they can cue in their athletes to like get into that zone. But when I look at Kyra through Trista there, it's only 10 seconds and 4 spots. That 4 spots ends up being 9 points. And we know in the case of Wilda Supnick, sometimes 1 point can be the difference. So that, I'm going to echo what you said. Great win there for Kyra to edge out Meza, who, by the way, is the LATAM Cup champion from Wadapalooza last year, in case you recognize the name but don't know where it's from, Kerstetter and Trista Smith.
One thing I will say, I don't know if you noticed this, but Trista, the way she's carrying herself, the last I've seen her, she's carrying herself like a pro. The way she's, and obviously I think it's the team that she surrounds her with. Obviously, it's Adam, it's Justin, but also her managers. Whether it's Daniel or Cooper, the way she's carrying herself, she's. I'm not saying like she's acting like she's been to the games, but she's carrying herself. She doesn't look like a wide-eyed teenager. She's being taught how to act on and off the field of play, and that really impresses me because you don't see that. When you talk to somebody, like you could, how I talk to Trista and how I talk to Kendall are like totally different. Kendall is like wide-eyed, bushy-tailed about it, and Trista's like, yeah, I want to be here. I'm expected to be here, and I'd be disappointed if I wasn't. So it's just kind of neat seeing the both sides of the spectrum on that.
I think that unlike the men's field, that the women's field is going to get really interesting tomorrow because there's some very good and experienced athletes down in this similar range to where we saw Bill Leahy. We see Kelsey Keel there. I would say this is a good performance for Kelsey for sure, 24th here. And especially if we go down a few more spots, you're going to start to see Danny Spiegel and Sydney McAlishan, both of whom are obviously very impressive athletes. And they're in that exact same range where they're going to need to have, there's one less spot for the women. So they're probably going to need to average finishes better than 10th the rest of the way if they want to make it. We know that Danny has the potential to win an event and do really well on another one, and possibly all 3 on Sunday. And Sydney McAlishan also has the potential, maybe not to win the Lagos rope climb event because Alex Gazan is here, but she could take second in it. She did win the Lagos rope climb regional repeat 2 years ago. And she's
Mac.
very good in that capacity. Yeah, and then for the women's side, the Lagos rope climb does weigh a little bit heavier than it will for the men. Um,
Yeah.
so this is a thing. Oh, PC. Last thoughts about today for the women event number 1.
My last thoughts. I mean, it's a good test. I think it's, I like a good test like this where you test fitness and just starting off. My last thought actually is Rebecca Foussier. I mean, we really haven't talked about her. I think that's a really disappointing finish for her. I know the other workouts kind of do line up outside of the clean ladder, but you would think someone of Rebecca's build, her experience, that should be improving in a run and finishing 23rd. It's just, I didn't, just not a good start for her, and especially with 3 workouts that aren't going to be in her favor.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that I want to echo about this workout was the layout of the barbells. We spoke to Chris
Yeah.
Ibarra. We'll have that interview coming out, and he mentioned how cool he thought it was to be able to look at all his competitors. That's where he made his move. He saw that Vellner started going singles. He said, I'm going to go for it, did some touch and go reps, and he ends up edging him out there and gaining those extra points that can be super valuable. Yeah, so I think it was a great day 1. I mean, I think everyone who was watching saw it. There were not a lot of fans on site today compared to what the stadium can hold. I'm really hopeful that that's going to be better tomorrow for everyone that's involved. It's a huge topic of conversation, and it's a very relevant topic of conversation. But the athletes were here competing in a great venue with a lot of history to be remembered and relived. They had some great performances in all three divisions, and we're just going to echo what we've been saying and what everyone else has been saying. If you're in the area, you can make the drive. If you can swing it for the weekend, come out and support these athletes, support the vendors that are showing up here, the volunteers and judges and everyone. The ambiance at a sporting event matters, and it's not it's still fun to compete, of course, but there were only maybe 100 people and 200 people in the stands by the end of the day today. So hopefully Daniel's right. Last year, quiet on Friday, packed on Saturday. So hopefully that's the case again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
No, I want to look at the
Go ahead.
workouts tomorrow for the individuals. So
Okay.
I was looking back at Europe last week, and I think in event number 2 of the athletes that ended up making the CrossFit Games, all 10 of them were in the top 17 of that workout, and 5 of them were in the top 10. On the women's side, all 10 of the qualifying athletes were in 13th place or better on that workout. In event number 3, it was even. It was almost the same. In both cases, men and women, 8 of the 10 games qualifiers were in the top 10 on workout number 3, and all of them were in the top 16 for the men and top 17 for the women. So even though we saw athletes that were making these big pushes up the leaderboard on the final day, from outside of that didn't get into the games, if you want to make it into those game spots, and it makes sense, look at the workouts, what they are,
Mm-hmm.
biking, Lagos rope climbing, jumping, box jumps, jump rope, toes to bar, and front squats. Like, these are fitness tests. They're slightly different time domains, but you have to be really good at these things. And I think that tomorrow we're going to see a couple of those athletes, probably Spiegel and McAlishan from lower on down the leaderboard, and potentially someone like Trayvon Benton or a Bill Leahy from lower down, maybe Zach
Yeah.
Bunton, have a really good day and push themselves back into the conversation. But if you're trying to identify the guys or girls that are likely to do well on these workouts, it's the men and the women that are most likely to make the CrossFit Games, because these are fitness
Yeah.
tests, and those ones that are already doing well are going to push themselves up the leaderboard even further, and the ones that either had a good workout, even though it was outside of maybe a qualifying spot, like a Kyra Milligan or a Sam Dancer type, if they have good workouts tomorrow, that's going to be encouraging to me about their potential to make the games on Sunday.
Yeah. I went to workout 3 instead of starting off with 2. But yeah. This is a workout, again, talking about someone like Rebecca Foussier. I can see Rebecca Foussier doing really well in a workout like this. That weight isn't very heavy for 155, isn't too heavy for her. The total bar, she's one of the best when it comes to bar workouts. Double unders, she's very good at double unders. But I think that finish, that 23rd finish, with this coupled with the falling event, I mean, she should do pretty well in the in workout 3. But I think again that that clean ladder is really gonna it has to be on some people's minds, whether it's good or bad.
Snatch ladder,
But
snatch ladder.
sorry, smash ladder. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I mean it's looming. The snatch is looming for some athletes for sure, but I don't think you can get too far ahead of yourself. And I don't know. I think that particular workout number 2, you tell me if you see any other way. I feel like Colton Mertens is about to smash this workout.
Oh, easily, easily. I mean, and knowing him, he's probably going to be really smart on the 20 total bars. He's probably break those up 10. He'll break those up, but he's gonna be very smart and very fast about it too. He's his cycle rate on the double under is pretty fast. I mean, same with Justin Medeiros, but yeah, I think Colton's going to really do really well with that, especially the squatting. That's a really lightweight for him. The front squatting, I mean, yeah, it should be no issue with him.
Yep, should be a good one for Tetlow. I think that, like I said, some of the top dogs are going to do really well. I'll be watching Chris Ibarra very closely on that. I think if he has a good workout here, that he's going to remain in contention throughout the weekend. And then lower down the leaderboard, I'm expecting Zach Bunton to have a big bounce back after today, and I'm going to be looking at Sam Dancer. It seems like this
Yeah,
should be a good workout for him. And even if he comes in 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that, then similarly to Ibarra, I'm going to be even more of a believer about his chances this week.
yeah, 100%. Um,
On the
so
women's
do you?
side, we did get that tip that Caitlin Bernardin, who
Yeah,
is the overall leader, may have another good workout here. So absolutely, and of course, the leader of the competition, will be watching her. I think Ariel Owen's going to do exceptionally well on this workout. I would expect Alex Kazan will do just fine. And I think that if you're looking for a super outside sleeper, we talked to Aubriana Mount Plaisir. She said this is one of the workouts
mm,
that she's really excited for. A young woman in the field. But Mikulishin and Spiegel are the athletes that have to have 2 top 10 finishes tomorrow if they want to
yeah,
keep their names relevant for CrossFit Game spots this week.
yeah, and obviously both of them have the capability of doing that. I mean, this workout here, workout number 3, this is 4. Workout number 4 is something that Danny Spiegel could do really well in. She's one of the better handstand walkers in the field, and she's really good on the machine. So I think her back's going to be
We'll
against the
preview.
wall.
Yeah, we'll preview the workouts for Sunday tomorrow night. Um,
Yeah,
but I think that probably, if we talked a little, we did do some Instagram lives today. I think we're going to do 2 of those a day just to give some check-ins. Tomorrow we'll do one after team event 4, which is going to be setting up the final, and we'll do one after the men and women take on event 2, setting up their last workout tomorrow, which will be event 3, and then we'll come live again at the same time tomorrow night to recap the day and talk about the teams who made the CrossFit Games and set up the final day. PC, I think you did want to take a look at what's happening in Oceania before we called it
yeah.
a day.
Let's take let's take a dip into that real quick. Obviously, this is going on right now. So if you're listening to us, hopefully on your TV, you're probably watching this. But yeah. So the team, they did one full day. The teams they did their 3 workouts. Um, they have 2 more left. So looking at it, CrossFit Torian Mayhem, which is the team of Con Porter, Carl Saunders, and James Newberry. They're tied with another Mayhem team. It's Royce Dunn. I'm trying to remember who else is on that team. I think Marnie Sykes. Is she on that team as well?
I think so. Maybe Christy Hollard. But look,
Yeah. Yeah.
the team competition probably of the 3, although this statement can potentially apply to all 3 of the divisions over there. It doesn't have a ton of depth. Look at the placements of these teams. They're all in the top 5, 6. Everyone in the top 6 has an 8th place finish or better, and all of those teams that are in the top 3 have nothing worse than 5th. The top 2 teams have nothing worse than 3rd. So one bad workout can really basically take you out of the equation. But even not having any good workouts, like not having a first, second, or third, can eliminate you. So, if these teams that are just on the outside, even though it's 12 points that Chocolate Box Star is trailing by EXF, they're going to need to have, a really good performance or a bad performance for EXF tomorrow, because there's only 300 points that have been available, and those top 4 teams are all within 40 points of the maximum that they could have. So there's not a lot of margin for error on the team side of things. You have 2 phenomenal teams that I was already referencing have the potential for top 10 at the games. And that EXF team is they have 2 really experienced athletes, actually 2 that I'm less familiar with, but their gym as a whole has been has had a lot of experience and success in sending teams to the games.
Mhm. I'm really encouraged by the second place or the third place for event 2 for Raw Iron CrossFit Mayhem Thunder. That's the team. Sorry, I had my teams mixed. That's the team that has Con Porter and Carl Saunders on. I'm really impressed because obviously Con hasn't been the healthiest when it comes to his back and injuries. So he did tell me that this is the healthiest he's felt in a while. So him and James isn't known to be a really heavy lifter. So this is really good for them to finish third in that workout.
I wonder what they're gonna do if they go first, second, and second first tomorrow, and they tie on points and they tie on every tiebreaker.
Oh, what is like the fifth tiebreaker?
We have never had a situation like that before. I think it
Yeah.
is extremely possible that could happen, and I think if that was the case, that they would just stand on top of the podium together and have a first, and a third.
Yeah, with that,
I don't think there's a man. I wonder. I'm actually like, I'm super curious about that. I almost want to send like Eubanks a message and ask him.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe you should ask Rookie. Maybe they don't even know that this is a possibility because it is definitely a possibility.
All right, who's
Reach
next,
out
men
to
or
Bell and
women?
Rookie there. Let's go men. All right. So they've gotten one's men workout. One of the men's one of 3 workouts so far. Seems like, unless again I'm not watching this. So if it is updated, let me know. But right now, overall, you have Jay. Sorry, I messed that up. Jay Crouch, as expected. It's a 2-person race, but it's a lot closer than we thought.
Not really. It's a
Yeah,
4-person
yeah,
race.
exactly. It's a 4-person race. Yeah. Before we start, I do want to send.
We talked,
If you don't saw that, Mike Halpin posted something. Zach Thomas, one of the people that we thought would be contending for that one of those spots there in Oceania. I guess he overheated or he had to withdraw due to him overheating from that first workout. He was actually carted.
there was another post that was put up. And he has some kind of a heart condition, and it's acted up on him a couple times in the past. This is, I think, the most severe one that he's had. He's a really easygoing and maybe one of those guys that kind of makes jokes even at the inappropriate times, it seems, because in the post where they were explaining this, it said that while he was on the way to the hospital or whatever, that he was making a joke about how he needs to improve his upper body pressing. And the guy who's writing the post is basically saying, "Well, we need to get this heart situation figured out first." So he is doing all right, but it's an interesting thing. We've had a few athletes over the history of the sport that have had some of these conditions, make competing very difficult for them. And obviously, Zach has a ton of potential, and he has a challenge that's somewhat unexpected that he's going to have to overcome one way or another. So, hoping that he's okay. Happy to see the updates going on, and cool, I guess, that he's in good spirits, even though he wasn't doing so great physically.
Yeah, if you're watching, just legs are wobbly and so speedy recovery, get healthy, come back, and we look forward to coming back. So, moving back to the actual race. Jay Crouch, Ricky Garrard, Bailey Martin, Peter Ellis. Those are the 4 names right now. We have some, Zane Healy's not too far behind. Same with Ben Fowler. But any surprises here?
Not really. I mean, I think I ended up putting Zach Thomas 4 and Luke DeYoung 5. They only were 5 spots available on the Heat 1 app, but in the article I wrote, I think Ellis was right up in the mix as well. Take a look at it. Yeah, in that article I wrote, I had DeYoung 4, Ellis 5, Thomas 6, Kearney, Ben Fowler, Zane I had at 10, and Isaac Newman, who Bella is really high on also. So most of the guys that, the top, like we said, the depth there is it's growing, but it's not massive. And so the top 7 guys, no real surprises there. There's going to be a lot of jockeying for position. You see 6 points between 5, 6, and 7, and only 12 points between 1 through 4. So basically, they're in a similar situation to the teams where one bad workout can really, do a number on your chances. And in the cases of Fowler and DeYoung, like they're probably going to need a win or two, a couple top 2, 3 finishes if they want to make up the deficit over the 4 spot, which is the last qualifying game spot.
And that's just hard to do against this field, to get a win. Yeah, to get a win
Rob
or finish the top 2
Forte.
because yep, there is good old Rob.
That's so cool.
That is cool. That's really cool. I bet you that was a cool moment, not only for him, but for like someone like Jay and Maddie, to kind of see someone that, they're meant to kind of just keep on pushing at it. So there, obviously William Kearney, not a good first day, not a good start of today for him. So it has to be pretty disappointing. But there's a name, Jake Douglas, dead last in that run. Came back with the 7th place, but it's just hard. When you finish 40th and you got this only 3 spots in this level of competition, it's not looking good for him.
No, and he could win the snatch ladder. He could make a mount up the leaderboard, but it's not Europe. It's not North America. There's not enough spots really. Yeah, we did talk about Zach. There's a good post out. I'm sorry, I can't remember who put it out, but talking about a heart condition that he has and giving some updates there. So wishing him the best. Looks like Taylor in quarterfinal event too. Yeah, which is never, you just hate seeing athletes look like that. A couple of the athletes looked pretty rough coming off the run here today. It did get really hot in the afternoon. So, we like to see athletes compete. We like to see them compete hard, but when it pushes into the realm of, health issues or scares in that regard, it's always tough to see and tough to watch. So, there's the old saying across it: the men will die for points, but we never want to see that happen or even come close to happening.
Not at all. So just stay tuned. We'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a clearer picture of that leaderboard and who's in contention for those top 3 spots. But obviously that's on right now. Head on over, watch that. Support. Obviously that crowd is going crazy. It's always a crazy crowd there. Women, 4 spots on the line here. Whether you believe they needed 4 or not, but 4 spots are here regardless. It doesn't look like they've updated with the event 2, but we can still talk about what we do know. Maddie Sturt in the lead. Michelle Hayes, not much information on her. Grace Walton in 3rd, followed by the other Haley Adams. And Caitlin Van Ziel in 5th. So...
Yeah, and Danielle Ford is also, a name, one of those. We've talked about Danielle. We've talked about Daisy McDonald being some of the younger athletes that could be mixing it up to try to steal maybe that 4th spot that they get. But, we see three of the 4 women that we're expecting to make the games, or the 3 women that we're really expecting to make the games, I would say. Grace,
in the top 5.
Caitlin, and Maddie Sturt that are off to a decent start. So more updates on Oceania tomorrow, but it's kind of the same across the board where you have to be pretty solid because, like you saw with Douglas there, one bad event probably takes you out of it.
Yeah.
Heat 4 is just finishing up.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh yeah, they have 5 heats over there because they only have an 8 lane floor. That's right.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, got it. So that was it, man. This day went by quick for me. I don't know how it went for you.
Yeah, I mean the action keeps moving. The last event is a little long, 30 minutes for 2 heats of women, 2 heats of men, 3 heats of teams. But there's a lot to fight for. There's a really small number of events for the team, so a lot of I'm kind of keying in to see who's going to make the moves. I think we saw some of those teams from the early heats jump up, but for the most part, a lot of the athletes that we expected to do well did. And Brian froze. Great. And it should be a fun day tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Again, we get the crown, we get to see what teams go. Obviously, I have some vested interest in a couple teams, and then we get a full day. We get 3 events of the individual. Again, I think we're doing our show at 5:15, right? Because everything's ending an hour earlier. 5:15 Pacific, or do you want to keep it?
No, they actually moved up. It was the day was traditionally would have ended later tomorrow, but they moved it so it ends at the same time. So the day should end at 5:15 again here, and we'll come live 1 hour later at 6:15 for day 2 recap. We'll congratulate the teams that end up qualifying for the games, and we'll set up a Sunday that we know from last week is going to be extremely dramatic and intense on the individual side.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for the support. Thanks for joining us for this and throughout the day. Again, so yeah, a bunch of content probably coming out in the next 24 hours. I got to catch up and throw some stuff out there. But thanks for all you guys for joining us. Thanks for everyone. Yeah, just keep on plugging along. Keep on being the great fans that you are, and that make our community the best. And there, I will say a special shout out to Dave Castro, who showed up today, and he was doing his rounds. He looked like he was having fun. He was talking to everyone. It was we got a chance to talk to him very briefly there at the end. I had a couple of laughs with him. I know he wished he probably could stick around a little bit long, be friendly with my, but yeah, but hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of Dave in Knoxville. But otherwise, yeah, it was really cool. I've really enjoyed my experience here at Carson, and we'll give like a kind of a full recap here in the coming days. But Brian, if you don't have anything else, I'm gonna close this out here, so that way we can go eat and get some work done. So, unless you have anything else to say, 1, 2, 3, no. All right, be friendly, our friends.